Sorry about that. I must not have had the new invite. Don't know why we always change it every time.
It automatically generates when I propose the new meetings. I wish that wasn't the case, but it is, unfortunately. But thank you everybody for joining us tonight. This is the first meeting of 2026, and I'm happy that everybody who is here that has joined is present. I'm going to go ahead and scroll through. Can everybody see my screen? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So this is our agenda for this evening. Or this was sent in by you guys. The only things that we really added to this were a couple of quotes that we received after the time that were put in. So I think that should be all right. We have them in the packet.
I'm going to call the meeting to order.
Approved.
Yeah,
6:35.
Yep.
Okay. Do you guys review minutes? I'll put this on the page. I'll skip when ready to the next page. There are 3 pages of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes. I've read through them.
I second.
I approve.
Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Okay, the monthly management report for some reason brought up August of 2025. So I apologize about that. I did send this all to you guys in an email with the weekly report, I believe. If I did not, I can get this over to you. I am going to go ahead and pull it up in real time. If you can just give me 1 second. All right. So this is our December monthly management report. This is not a finalized section of the accounts situation. Taiwo did already rectify this $41,000 that shows as a deficit, which it shouldn't. He's already fixed that. So in your final financial report, that will be fixed, obviously. Right now we have A&R balance of $12,991.34. Myself and the board will be discussing that situation later this evening. Some completed action items for this month are landscape walks. This last month the landscape walks. It was the holidays, so we didn't really do those. There was one final walkthrough for the pavement, and that went really well. The biweekly touch base meetings are going to resume here in January. Star Landscape did, as of the time of today, have the dates, which will be this Friday, to be out there. I've coordinated them with Dairy also for their input on where to trim and how they would like it trimmed. ARC approvals are still going on. Violations sent to units at the board's request, and assessment increase reflected in January statements. Board, did we have anybody report any of those were incorrect?
Not that I've heard.
I've looked through most of them and before I approved it, and I mean, I probably got through about 75% of them and they all look fine. So, the water intrusion inspections were completed. Asset and compliance inspections were also completed by the management.
Smokey, can I ask you a
Yes.
quick question? You,
Yes.
the first slide you popped up was August 31st final. There was a reserve of 244 and change. Where did that end up? 12? What? So now that we're looking at the most current, where did the reserve end up? 12/31/2025.
The reserve, we'll get to the treasurer's report here in a little bit, and I'm sure he'll bring clarification to that. And while he's doing his portion of the meeting, I will definitely be pulling it up on the backside in case he needs that support. So,
Okay, fair enough. Thanks.
thank you. We've continued to watch the the water bills reporting. Mark, did you see anything come across about the new meter in the one unit?
Yeah, she asked a date and I asked if you could schedule it with him.
Okay. So I'll put that in my notes real quick. Community social events will be announced for this year. Small projects are continuing. We have the bids for the drain repair. We'll discuss that tonight. Preventive maintenance items, including the SP of the annual calendar. Quote for pavers by restroom door is inbound to try to get that done before the pool season this year. And then we have our quarterly meeting tonight and an annual meeting suggested date of 9/21 of 2026. Any questions right now on the management report?
No, sir.
I'll go ahead and shut that down. We do have, I guess the next thing is going to be the treasurer's report. Go ahead and take over.
Can everybody see my screen?
It says treasurer's
can.
report.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, good to
So
go.
as Smokey mentioned, the financials, they go through a process to be verified and reconciled before they send out the financial packets. And we're about a week ahead of that. And it'll probably be a little longer because it's the end of year. So I want to focus just on some things that we've been following this year with the advent of the reserve study and looking into kind of where we are with our reserve funds at this point. We are going to finish, we are going to finish in the black this year, and with also being able to fund some additional funds into the reserve account, as the board's aware of. Just in terms of the overall kind of high points of the reserves, we had about 147,000 growth in reserves funds over the year, a reduction of 146,000 in what we owe to the reserve account. And then that's even with spending about $58,000 in capital projects. As of the end of the year, our main fund is at $222,351. So I think that answers that question. And that's a 79% increase over the same time last year. And then we still have about almost $49,000 in the settlement funds that we're using primarily right now to do that investigation on the water.
So the
Intrusion.
main fund of 222 is the reserve fund on the financial statement, because the one in August ending 31 was 242. So the reserve, while it's increased 79% year over year, is down 20%, 20,000 since August 31st.
Well, if you'll go back to the previous slide, we spent 58,000. That happened in that quarter.
Okay, well I didn't see that slide. I only saw the reserve number of 242.
Yeah, it was on this slide right here.
What?
On On this slide right here, it shows the capital projects here that was spent. This one doesn't show the capital projects. This just shows the status as of the end of the year. This is our repayment schedule that we've done to the reduce those funds. But yeah, we're ended up at $222,000.
But you understand why I asked the question.
$60,000 to
Yeah, hopefully
do the
you understand
walkways.
why I asked the question. The first slide that Smokey brought up said 242 in reserves as of August 31st. And then the next thing I hear is we're at 222, but it didn't show where any capital expenditures occurred. So that's why I asked the question.
Absolutely. And, you know, sorry to interject, but we do have a Q&A session towards the end. So if you want to, you know, jot down your comments, and when we get to that section, please, we'll go by hands. We want to hear from everybody.
That
but,
works.
We do want to
Yeah.
get through the presentation. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
So if you'll, so we did do that major reserve project that was about $60,000. And as the board is aware, we have been shifting from where we had a pretty large balance of what we owed, which is what this from the operating to the reserve. That's been reduced $146,000 this year. Mostly that's to repay the insurance premiums that we have in March. But still, there's been about $65,000 of money we've been able to transfer from operating into reserves to build that back up. Going forward, as you're aware, we did the reserve study this year. With that reserve study, we set some goals for funding balances for our reserves. Our anticipation when we did the original reserve study, that was we would have about $191,000. So we're above that total. That's because we did that major transfer in December. You can see that there. And that transfer in December is going to stretch our operating funds a little bit, but we always have the buffer of those reserves that we can temporarily utilize if we need to for cash flow purposes. Kind of the good news on this is when we did the reserve study and what we anticipated, when we looked at full funding, we were looking at into this year only being funded at 53% of the target of $322,000, which is kind of be full funding for the reserve study. With that additional funds that we've put in, you'll see that we're at about a 69% funding level at this point. So we've moved that up into closer to where, you know, kind of that green zone is. If you remember from the reserve study, kind of green is between 70 and 100%. So, you have questions? And just as a reminder, we are funding the reserve. We are putting an additional $100,000 into reserves this year. $50,000 will go towards repaying previous borrowed money, and $50,000 will go towards kind of new funding for that. Our projects that we're looking at for reserve planning for this year, including, and we'll get more into these details later as we get through that. But those are the projects that we're looking at as we go forward with that. So that's kind of where we are. We'll have a more expansive review of the year-end performance overall as soon as we get that data in, and that'll be we'll send that out in a newsletter and put it on the website as well. So
Thank you so much, Mark. All right, are we ready to move into old business and ratification of board decisions?
Yes, sir.
I'll move to ratify board decisions.
Agree. Second,
Second, third.
fourth, correct.
Approved.
Okay, so next,
So we talked about this the last time, kind of memorializing kind of what we've been doing process-wise or procedure-wise with regard to fines. We don't do a lot of fining, but trying to standardize that so we're not, that we have a standard that we can go by. I did make some adjustments to the fine schedule from last time. There was a one-time fine if you did not have approval before you started your project, but I've taken that out. And so basically this is kind of what we've been left at and congruent in what we've actually been doing. So looking at if it's a structural or safety issue, that it's an art after the cure period, which is we give people time to get everything fixed and cured. But if it's not cured, then that would be a daily fine of $25 for a structural safety issue. If it's just aesthetic, it would be a $5 a day fine after the cure period. Other violations are parking violations. That's people who've repeatedly parked in the guest parking or had people from there and not register. Remember, they're given a letter if they have more than 5 violations within a month. And then for a period after that time, each violation after that is subject to a $25 per occurrence fine. And then just a $25 fine on other violations after final notice has been sent. So just to have something standardized, I know we had some discussion on that last time. We can certainly table this and come back to it again, or make changes, or look at adopting that.
I had looked through it before. I motion that we adopt it.
I agree.
Second. Yep.
Yeah, good work. Thank you. I agree as well.
All right. So
Okay.
passed.
All right, so just to let everybody know, I kind of put the agenda over in the chat if you guys want to pull that up and follow along that way. I do believe right now we are getting ready to run into.
We're looking at the sewer cap replacement. As y'all are aware, we had a situation in the sewer cleanouts behind the units where the covers had gotten pushed down into the pipes where they can't be removed. And so we had a team come out from one of a vendor to try to see if they could get those out without having to break the concrete around them and replace the pipes. So that, should an owner be able to get to that clean out, they can actually get to that clean out. Currently, I think there's about 7 of them. 7 units. I think it's different. It might have one, might have a couple, but so we did get a bid from reconstruction experts. Don't know if you want to.
Did you want me to share that? I have it pulled up right now.
Well, I mean, I think, and it's pretty significant. It's about, I believe it's $20,000 or close to that.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere
do
within
that.
there. Yep. It's $19,110.
So I think
sorry, $651.80.
yeah.
Tax.
So we had some conversation that went around a little bit by email, but we want to kind of look at some direction of how the board wants to proceed with this. Do we want to, I think there's several options. One, we wait until somebody needs it and then pay the cost to have it done then. 2, we go with this bid. 3, we look for other bids. I think Smokey's been working on getting another bid right now. And so we should have that as well. So
From
I guess,
SES.
do we want to continue to seek bids on this, or do we want to take other action?
I had voted before that we try and get at least 3 bids. It's kind of
I
normal-
agree with
normal
that.
practice.
I think with
Yeah.
these bigger purchases, we should have at least a few different bids to try it out. I don't think there's so urgent that we need to move without that.
I support that. And I support certainly getting other bids. I guess the other thing, and looking at this, to repair those 7, they're basically going to take out a chunk of, or a section of concrete around each of them to then be able to take out and fix that clean out pipe and then put concrete back. is there, again, does it make sense at some point to do other repairs to the pavement? And I know there's the certainly speed bumps, but is there other things that need to be fixed? So can you combine it together to get more efficiency? I don't know. Just a thought.
That is definitely an option. We can, we can have someone come and inspect all of the concrete work that may need to be done around there. We walk it quite often, you guys do, and I walk it once a month. There's really in the drives not a lot of concrete work. The thing is these caps got pushed down and they drop down in the piping, and it's making it to where we can't do the proper clean out with them. So this repair is for replacing those properly to where they're not going to get pushed down again, and we're going to be able to do the yearly clean outs on those drains effectively.
Yeah, I guess I'm in favor certainly of more bids, just and then
Well,
come back to this at that point.
I guess my question would be to that point, Smokey. You say there's a yearly clean out? I've never seen it cleaned out once ever. So, am I wrong by saying that to the rest of the group? Because I don't recall it ever being cleaned out.
So since I've been there, there's been one attempt to clean it out, and that was where we discovered this issue. So moving forward, we would like to clean those out yearly as preventative maintenance once they're fixed properly. That's what I've been, I feel that has been brought across to me. Board, if there's any problem with that, please correct me.
So I think when we get our, part of what we're looking for is to get an evaluation done of our plumbing and drainage issues. So I don't know if that's going to be part of that scope, but that's something that, certainly if that's recommended, then we would incorporate that into our budget. I mean, the thing about these caps is there's really no budget for that. And that's a pretty hefty fine amount of money. We're going to either have to support that through reserves, or we're going to have to borrow from the reserves to pay for something that large at this point. But I mean, all we're doing by waiting, because it's been this way for a while. It's not like it's is if somebody has an issue that they need to get in there, it's probably going to be more expensive to do the one-off at that point. But again, these have been this way for years. I mean, this isn't a new situation, but it is something we just started addressing. We've been investigating it for about 6 months. So
I recommend we get some more bids and then we see what it is.
Yes. Do I have the board's approval to use this scope of work for our bids? Do we feel this is pretty much complete?
RE?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
so.
I think it looked pretty good myself. So just wanted approval on that. I will get that out. I'll put it in the vendor smart, and I'll send it to a couple others individually also.
Smokey, I know you muted me or someone did. I just want to ask one quick question.
Hey,
I've only
Tom,
been
we got that section at the end of the presentation.
No, I know we do. I know we do. So help me understand. I'm new in the neighborhood.
I understand.
I've only been there since March. Is this a board meeting or a meeting of everybody else? And then because we're asking for seconds and thirds, and there's no vote, and there's no how many in favor, yay or nay. And I just want to know what I'm listening to. This is my first one. So I apologize, but be patient with me.
Absolutely. And please be patient with us. We will get to that to the end. But right now, to answer your question immediately, there have been a couple decisions made. There's also some other things that when we all can get together on calls like this, they are board meetings. So this is a meeting for the board to conduct their business. This is not a town hall meeting or anything like the annual meeting to where it's focused around the homeowners. This is transparency to the owners currently over what the board's doing and the decisions being made. So
fair enough.
If that answers
fair
your
enough. I
question.
appreciate that.
Absolutely.
That. I just haven't heard all in favor, aye, all opposed, nay. I've heard a first, a second, and a third, which is new to me. So I apologize. Thank you.
No, no problem. Thank you, Tom.
Please proceed, Mr. Smokey.
Okay, so next, sorry, I got to keep scrolling back up.
So
All right.
the next issue is we're going to kind of look at planning the year. And so there's going to be several items that we're going to talk about that are on the agenda that we're going to try to consolidate all together as we plan out kind of some major things that we're going to be doing for the year. And we can stop at any time and get more information or whatever y'all the board needs for this. So it's kind of three areas. There's things that we need to get started right away. There's kind of planning for some capital projects, and then there's just some governance issues that I want to bring up for possible consideration. So first of all, as you're aware, in the reserve study, they did recommend doing some ancillary investigations of some things periodically as we build for better planning with regard to that reserve study. So this year we had scheduled to do a structural and a plumbing inspection or evaluation. And so looking at kind of the scope of what those might look like, sorry, it's taking some time to pull this up. But really looking at having somebody come in, either an engineer or a plumber, to look at our plumbing infrastructure. And this isn't unit. This is all just what the association's responsible for. So it wouldn't be anything that's involved in anybody's interior unit. Their owners are all responsible for that, but things that are exterior to the unit, as well as our drains and our situation here to make sure the things the association's responsible for maintaining, we don't see some issues that we can do some preventative stuff early on to make sure that happens. But looking at doing some camera inspections, looking at visual situations, asking them to provide us a written report, current condition, any issues they may see, any recommendations for immediate versus long-term repair or replacement. This way we can incorporate that information into our reserve study and fund for them later on. With regard to a structural evaluation, really looking at getting an engineer to assess and determine kind of how our structure looks in terms of, are there any concerns with regard to the foundations, other structural issues, looking at basically the exterior walls, concrete masonry, any kind of movement, foundation framing. And then any issues they may have that we need to be dealing with, taking that structural information and incorporating that into our reserve study or something we might need to go forward with. So those are kind of the two evaluations that we'd be looking to bring in a vendor for. We do have a relationship with Charles Taylor. So my recommendation is that we would reach out to them for a quote first, based upon this scope, and see what they come back with. We have up to about $10,000 that we budgeted for this. That was kind of based on our best information at the time. It may be a little more, maybe a little less. We'll just have to look at it and see. Thoughts?
Yeah, Mark, just like with RE, I value our relationship with Charles Taylor. So I'm on board, and I recommend getting a quote from them just to see where things stand with that.
And I would say that'd be handy because when they give their recommendation, I can use that scope of work as if we want other bids to make it apples to apples. It makes things run smoother that way.
Chris, Robbie, Peter?
Yeah.
Apologize. I was on mute and I was talking. Sorry about that. I'm in agreement as well. So make a motion to move forward and getting that scope of work taken done, or that bid, whatever, for Charles Taylor.
I'll second that motion.
I agree.
I'll
Is
approve.
everybody
that.
in favor?
Yep.
Okay, and just to clarify, that was just over the structural inspection with Charles Taylor and getting quotes
Correct.
for that, not the plumbing, right?
Yes, no, both.
Correct.
No, both.
Both?
Yeah. They can do
Okay.
both.
Yeah, no, I know they can do both. I just didn't know if we were approving both.
Well, I'm approving both.
Well, should we ask them for individual and then combined, just in case we get other bids for individuals?
I
mean,
think
I'm
we can
sure
send
they
them to them
can-
separately and they
Yeah.
can bid them out, but separately.
That
But
that's
I'm
that's
just
what
saying we
getting
would
at.
start with them.
Yeah.
They
I
should-
think
they
we
should-
just get them each separately and then ask them what they would give us as a discount if we did both together at the same time.
I always love where your head's at, Robbie. Always love it. So
Okay.
we're all in favor? All in favor?
I'm in favor.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's really just board direction here. It's not necessarily a board vote, but it's in a matter of, is everybody in agreement? That's the next step that we're good to go. So.
I think
So
we
kind
all-
of looking at planning out. So we're going to move on to the capital projects that we have scheduled for this year and kind of talk a little bit about those. As we have, it's not as much a capital project, but we do have our oak tree out in the front that they're going to do that work on that's underway. And we're actually putting in, that's getting some treatments as well. At some point, and it may be this year, we really need to have probably come out and look at all of our oaks and make some recommendations. There's also a situation that as we get into the landscaping on Carlisle around a couple of units that we thought was seedlings, but it's really not seedlings. It's really plants coming up from the roots, which could be either genetic or a sign of disease. And so trying to get a handle on having the oak ground covering in those units, having somebody come out and help us with that, because it's really a situation not of things growing up from oaks, from acorns. It's about the tree trying to clone itself. And it could be trying to get air. It could be genetic. There's just many things it could be. So before we try to kind of tackle that, we probably need to get some advice from an arborist on it.
And Mark, just for visual purposes, you're referring to like unit 7 in that oak? That's up.
Yeah.
Okay.
7, 14, 15.
Yeah.
Those are the trees. I mean,
Okay.
It could be that the roots are getting stymied by the walls and stuff. I mean, there's lots of reasons, but really trying to get a handle on that. But I think foremost, making sure it's not the sign of some illness in the tree that could be addressed otherwise, and then trying to figure out how we're going to deal with that aesthetic piece.
Yeah, I bring up a good point, because I do think the city of Dallas wants us to be the best stewards of those oaks as possible. Kind of what we had to do in regards to the big oak on the corner of Hall and Carlisle with that. So I do think that's a really good idea. These oaks, in my personal opinion, are one of the things that makes the property so beautiful, and I want to make sure we maintain those as long as possible. Sorry, go ahead, Smokey.
Yeah, sorry guys. Derry is going to be out there on Friday in the morning to give instruction to Robert's team on the trimming of that. Maybe if I give him the heads up, we can get a few minutes for him to come look at those real quick and give us
Sure.
an opinion while
Sure.
he's already there.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Fair enough. All right, I'll get it done.
So I think there's an item later on about the windows. I don't know where that's going to end up, but we have for years talked about doing some power washing, especially to kind of clean up the whatever the white stone along the fronts of the units. That's not budgeted for capital money, but it should. If we're going to do it this year, we should probably do it before we start getting into some of this other work that we're going to do to the units, like painting and painting the parapet caps, and then even the landscape work. So I guess at this point, what we're wanting or what we're needing from the board is direction on whether y'all want to go forward and get a bid for power washing the fronts of the facades around the whole vine and get a bid on that so that we can try to get that done by April, or we're putting that off for another year.
I mean,
I
I don't think there's any reason not to get a quote on something and then see if it fits, how it fits in the budget, and what it's going to take is how it's going to mess with the budget or not.
Yeah, I reached back out to Amar again on the window washing to see if he was applicable to what we proposed, and haven't heard back from me. So I'll try one more time again on that. But I'm with Robbie. I mean, I do think we need to move forward on that. I'd like to get a quote just to see where it falls within the budget. I think that's the most expedient thing to do, and go from there.
Makes sense. Yeah, my question was gonna be about that, if we had heard anything back from the folks across the street. So it sounds like you're still working on that, Eric.
And that could be two different things anyway, because they're talking about washing windows, and I don't know if the power washing, that would be part of the scope of that bid or not.
It's not in that bid, guys. I'll jump in there. It's not in that bid. This is just for the windows, but they also offer that services, and I also have a separate company too that I can get it bidded out from.
So if Smokey, you could move towards, I mean, what I would propose is Smokey move towards getting some bids by mid to late February, so that we can pull a trigger on something soon before we start doing our landscaping and the other work.
Okay.
Yep.
Made note.
And does it, from a 1, 2, 3 standpoint, does it make sense to power wash first and then come in after that and clean the windows?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because the power washing will just dirty the windows that you just cleaned.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Yeah,
just
if
need
they
to
pay
make
for
sure
that.
that
I mean,
we
we'll
stay
see.
in
I mean, the
touch
owners
with-
are really, the only reason they're getting that is because they said they would do it because of the dust, because really the owners are responsible for the windows. So,
And I would say if we have to, like, maybe get them to break out that front section separate than the rest of the community, just so we can not lose contact with them taking care of the windows.
well, I wouldn't break out I mean, I don't think we need to break out at all. We just need to, because I don't have a lot of faith that the windows are ever going to be done.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm beginning
To me, it's just
believe
delaying the inevitable.
I'm beginning to believe that as well, but I'm holding just a little bit more faith in there. But so we'll see on
I
that.
mean, they're closing it. That project's closed out for the most part. They're finalizing their bills.
Yep.
Okay. So then moving forward, kind of looking to try to have an installation date of the landscaping in May, as well as maybe the painting of the wood fences. I will say the landscape committee did a walk at the beginning of the year and really identified some elements to be kind of needs at each unit. There's a couple of other things that aren't done. So there's some options around some bushes, identified where we needed to add some bushes, where the ground covering needs to be enhanced, all of those kinds of things. And then and there's a spreadsheet that we can share as this project gets down to for bidding purposes. Really kind of the direction that is needed here is, are we wanting to get multiple bids for that? And if so, we need to, or go with Bare Roots and just go with their bid as the relationship we have with them.
I'm at this point in time, I think it's best, at least my personal opinion on this, for us as stewards of the community to get as many bids as possible. I think 3 is a nice number on that, kind of what Robbie said earlier. That's just my personal opinion on that. Well, while I'm not upset with Bare Roots on that, I do think it behooves us as stewards to make sure we're getting the best bang for our buck on that.
I agree.
I would ask that we use the same strategy as the other bids, and let's get the trusted vendor to go ahead and shoot us a scope, and use that to piggyback off of, to just make sure we get like for like bids. It always helps.
So I think the landscape committee has a scope that we can look at, and I'll send that out to everyone for y'all to look at that and get some feedback on it. And then we can walk at another time with the landscape committee and make sure that's what we want to do. And then that'll, because there's a couple of options too. They talked about possibly doing what we did last year on the bush planting and doing that ourselves, buying the bushes and planting them ourselves and just have them focus on the ground cover. But that, you know, that wasn't decided for sure yet.
I mean, that's probably the cheapest, but I mean, we're taking up real time and hours of people who are experts. So if you can get like a community group, I think you need bigger group than just the Knicks running around and using up all their labor. Unless, Chris, you have nothing else to do.
I got some stuff to do, but my shovel works. So if we can get a group, that'd be outstanding.
Well, that's an option. So we have time. I think our next board meeting's in March, and maybe we can have some final details and move forward with kind of the plan at that point.
Yeah, if we're targeting May, I think that's perfect. Plants will be starting to come up out about that time, so we can decide if we want to buy them our own or go through one of our vendors.
Yeah. So, and the painting of the parapet caps are going to have to really be coordinated with the defect project and the work that we're trying to accomplish with Charles Taylor to kind of identify what we need to do. If there is overlap, there may not be overlap, but we certainly don't want to go off and paint something that they're going to tear something off and repaint it and pay for it twice. As well as there's also some vertical control joint work that needs to be done. I would recommend we wait till after we get the structural engineers report so that they can really identify all those areas that we need to address as well. So, so those are kind of the big projects, capital and otherwise, that we've got planned at this point, and setting those timelines. I thought it was important for us to kind of all come to an agreement on kind of what that timeline looks like, so that we can hit those markers and things don't get behind, so that we have clear direction on kind of the way the board wants to go up front. And then we can have all the information when we need it to make the right decision at the time.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. Yep.
This is just more information on the parapet camping, you know, the budgets for those two things, and the Carlisle landscaping. So the last area that I kind of want to bring up for planning purposes is really as we move towards increasing transparency and communication as a board, looking at adopting some standards of conduct, board standards of conduct, and conflict of interest. I don't know. I did send those drafts out to everybody a week or so ago. So hopefully you had some time to review that. But really, it's kind of the key area is behind that is just kind of that fiduciary standard of care that, you know, board of directors, we put the community first, not our needs, that we do our due diligence to make, as we make our decisions, confidentiality, you know, that that we maintain that where as defined in the policy, and then that even though we have dissent, and board members are welcome to dissent and can dissent and can have rights to dissent, but once the board makes a decision, that a board member doesn't actually go and try to sabotage that decision or slow it down. And then just, you know, acting professionally, and then disclosing conflicts of interest and making sure that we're complying with laws.
Yeah, it's all things you hope that never happen, but this is just giving us some safeguards that in case something does come up. I'm with you.
Yeah. And then kind of the conflict of interest. Just kind of what is a conflict of interest, and what's your responsibility as a board member to disclose that if you do have a conflict of interest, and how that's handled as we go from there. So kind of the direction we're needing on these at this point, or what we're looking for at this point, is the board to just authorize these to be either, I mean, if we want to pursue them, to be sent to the attorney to be reviewed and then be styled so that they could be adopted and filed with our governing documents.
If there's any change, if this is like, I guess, in addition to our governing documents, so
it would be considered a rule and be a part of our governing documents. If we don't file it with, it becomes enforceable as a governing document. It's still part of it's not, it becomes part of it, just an additional governing document.
I guess the only thing we just got to be aware of, I think this is the case. The attorney would be able to let us know. But anytime you make a quote unquote addition or change to a set of governing documents, it gives the right for anybody to raise their hand and make other suggestions that they think should be changed.
That's not true for a condo association.
It's not for condos. Just okay.
No,
gotcha. Cool.
No, this is condo associations. We can adopt rules, and that's. The board does that, but it becomes enforceable. But there are different, when you do different things, there are different requirements. And so the lawyer will be able to tell us how it can be adopted and how it should be adopted. But I really believe this is really about board behavior. So I don't see that the board can't be the one who makes this decision to adopt it and move it forward. But that's why we're asking for legal advice.
Yep. No. So if we need to make a motion, I make a motion to send it off to the attorney, get it checked out, get it scrubbed correctly, and we can add it in. We can vote on it then.
Yep.
Everybody in agreement?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Yes. Yes.
Yep. Okay. Let's go back here. Sorry, I've got multiple windows open right now. I'm trying to get to this thing off of here. Here we go. All right, so the next thing to look at is just in these, this isn't really a new rule. This is just kind of highlighting for transparency the roles of each of the board officers. And then the board officers would acknowledge this as well. But it really is coming straight from the bylaws. There's no new information in here. So it's just really an acknowledgement for kind of the roles and the expectations of each of the officers. So kind of your role as the board member and what you're expected to do.
The only thing I noticed, Mark, is that some of this stuff, because the way this board kind of collectively works together at this point, some of these things cross over. And quite honestly, you take a big chunk of the responsibility for a lot of this stuff, like, you maintain the Google Docs drive, so all of our documents and so forth are there and such like that. But as long as we all understand that's part of the case, I
think that the bottom line is these are the people who are the ones responsible for that. Yeah. So regardless of who's actually doing the work, the person who's responsible, it's their job to make sure it's done correctly.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
So, you can, like one of the things, I mean, like if we wanted, a different liaison, we can set out a different liaison for people that work with them. But, it's really, these are the people who, that's the role of the situation. So for this one, I think this one it says it's really not a new rule. It's just a document that we would put in our governing pieces for acknowledgement. This would be just something the board would adopt. Eric?
Yeah, I was going to ask, is there any particular thought behind like why the treasurer would only be 1 year term versus 2 years like everyone else on here?
It's in the documents.
Okay. But
you'd have to change the bylaws. I don't know why they did that. Probably just because the treasurer has the power of the purse and they don't want anybody to, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was the case. I thought everybody was at the same time. So
nope.
I learned something new today.
Yeah, because normally it's as you bring them in, like there's 2-year terms, but they're offset. So you never have a complete new board, but everybody, like certain positions expire every other year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'm good with this. I motion to approve.
Sure, I'll
Good
second
with
it.
it. Second, third.
Everybody in favor?
Fourth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, so the last situation is this issue with regard to board member term limits, which are currently in the document. The reality is it's been difficult enough to get people to serve on the board that what ends up happening is this has become moot. And basically what happens if we don't change the bylaws on this, then you've got a board member that just keeps staying on without ever coming to a vote because nobody's there to replace them. That's one option. But it also, I think, puts us in a situation with this currently in our bylaws that somebody could question the authority of the board, saying that board members, have exceeded their terms. So this would possibly need to be voted on by the, we'll have to find out from the attorney, by the owners. And if it is, it's going to need a supermajority of 67%. So we need to get that started early so that that's in place by September if this is where we want to go. And so we would ask the attorney to draft the amendment to the bylaws and then approve it, send it out if it needs to be approved, and try to get a final vote and try to get over the hump before September.
Right.
So just like everything else, what are the pros and what are the cons on this? Like I don't like at face value, I don't have a problem with it at all. I'm all for transparency.
Well, I mean, just right now, neither Eric or I would be eligible to run for board in September. That's the con, I guess. And I mean, if it is somebody else wants to join and take those roles, I'm fine with that. It just hasn't been the case.
Yeah.
Even this year, Peter didn't get elected. Peter was appointed because nobody signed up.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah. Welcome.
But you know what I mean? It's like, it's not like we have people that are trying to, but it's a in my opinion, maybe I just think it's a problem because what's going to happen is that what the documents say, if no director is replaced, you just stay on the board.
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense to move forward on this, to think about it. I can't think of really anyone that's actually been elected on the board because we've always had an opening. So
you were elected. I was elected. Robbie was elected. Eric was elected.
No, okay.
He's meaning
you
like
got
the
appointed and then were
election
elected.
bidding process is what he's meaning.
Yeah, I got appointed, right, and then the next term I was elected. So that part I get, but I'm just saying the first time they get on. That's what I was referring to, Mark.
Yeah.
Yep. My concern
the first time.
Like my concern with this whole thing is the second point Mark brought up. To me, that's the most important part. I mean, the other things is that I don't want anyone. I think it's it's inevitable at some point maybe, but just to have all of our ducks in a row in case someone challenges some of the decisions that we've made on here, it would be nice if, because like I said, this is a volunteer thing. No one's doing anything. I don't feel like there's a conflict of interest on anyone that's on the board right now, but at the same time, things can change. And I just want to make sure that, from the whole thing about when I became president, one, it was the whole transparency part. So I continue to lean into that. I just want to make sure that that's always at the, forefront of what we're doing on here is that we're being transparent to everybody, and there's no shenanigans going on behind the scenes or things like that. So that's my spill
Yeah.
on that. So you guys want to move
Mark,
forward with this?
would your intent, obviously, by reading this thing is looking at the September meeting is when we vote. We vote on this or take the tally for the vote. I think we go down that path.
Yeah, but I think we need to approve it, from just right now to move it forward to the attorney to get Smokey to have the attorney look at it. Correct, Mark? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, just some direction from the board if we're ready, if we want to pursue this and move forward with this to get the board to authorize the attorney to start working on this.
I see your timeline. You got April, June, July, August, and the September piece. So I make a motion that we move forward.
A second.
All in favor?
Well, I'm pretty much in favor, but I just want to ask a question is how much does it cost the lawyer to go do this stuff? It's not like a $10,000 thing, right?
No,
No,
it's going to cost money though.
Just a little bit, Rob.
it's probably going to be a couple $100.
And then with that, is there any other things that we want to put on the agenda to the community that would then scale appropriately? Like, didn't we had some stuff in the past and maybe we've walked past it or whatever, everything from, I guess maybe everything from like rental requirements to everything else, right? Is there anything else that we would want to put or consider in the next month? I guess we still have time, but to have the person do it at the same time.
I think that's a good point in regards to the rentals. I don't know if we want to push that to executive or if that's something you guys want to talk about or something like that.
Yeah, I think we talked about that in executive, but I was actually about to bring up the same thing with Robbie.
Okay.
My only point is I don't want us adding things slowing down the momentum of getting something that we really need to get done.
It's fair. Totally fair.
I mean, we can talk about it, but we need to get a timeline. If we don't have it by this point, we need to just move forward. And it needs to be pretty quick because, making this happen it's not going to be a small adventure.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely with the super majority, if you add too much in, that'll be a hurdle to get over.
Yep. So, Rob,
and the lawyer may come back and say we don't need the supermajority. I don't know. That's just because it has to do with terms of directors. It could definitely fall into that category.
Right.
Not
so Rob is a singular
things together. I'm just saying the only bundling I was trying to say to do there was the legal fees, not to bundle the actual voting together.
Yeah. So from a singular standpoint on this, are you good moving forward? And then we can circle back to the other ones.
Yeah, I just didn't know. I didn't know what.
I mean, speaking to the attorney, Robbie, I mean, I think there's some things you could get some I guess economies of scale with them, but I've not found that to be the case too much with lawyers in general.
Got it. Okay.
Because each one has to have their own recitations. Each of them has to have their own research. Each of them regardless of, it's not like I guess you're looking at documents at the same time, but a lot of times you're not looking at the same part of the same document anyway.
Yeah. I mean, Rob, I appreciate you looking out for association costs on this, but
just asking the question, right? I mean,
that's
you guys have the answer.
But, if we have other things, let's bring them up and let's get them done. But it's just, I think when we talked about this last year, we didn't have enough momentum to move forward on a couple of things. So,
yeah, I do think we should move forward on this just by itself. That's my thought on that.
Okay.
Well, agreement on that?
All good.
We had majority the first time. Robbie was the only one that was the questioning.
No, I was good with it. I was just asking the question to see if we can add more value.
Okay.
All right. I think
Smokey,
we covered all of these motions previously as we went along. So, yep.
And I think Chris got cut off right there. He noticed I spoke up in that. No, I'm fine with that. I was just with Robbie. If there's anything that the board really feels that it's something they want to get done, if we combine those, that's all I was getting at.
I do think there is, but I don't to Mark's point, I don't want to bog down one to, something that's important that we really haven't fully fleshed out on the other ones yet. You know, and certainly we can bring it up in executive if you guys want to talk about it further. But that's where I stand right now.
Sure.
All right. I think the next thing is treasury report, which I already did. So Eric, do you want to talk about the window washing quote?
Hey, sorry, Mark. I had the treasurer's report a little bit up top. Was that in the wrong position?
It's fine. We already did it, so it's good.
Okay.
I mean, in regards to the window washing quote, we over the course of the last 2 years, we've had a pretty good relationship with the folks across the street. We've had some back and forth on some different things, and one of the things I had asked, and the board had asked, if we could, based upon all the dust and stuff that had been kicking up, is that if the property management company over there would pay for the cost of washing the windows on Carlisle. They had agreed upon it. We sent them a quote, and I followed up twice, and I'm getting silence right now on that. I'll follow up, one or two more times if I have to call and verbally speak with the property management company on that to see if we can move that forward on that. I think the question is if they kick us to the curb, which is, there's nothing binding on that except verbal on that. If they choose to ignore us or just move on, what is everyone's thoughts going forward on window cleaning and tagged with the power washing on that?
I'm not in support of it.
You just want to do power washing only?
Yep. That's me.
Yeah,
Because
no,
because that's windows are an owner's responsibility, so that's on them to keep their windows clean.
Yeah, it's one of those. If we had an overflow of cash and we needed something to do and we want to do it for the community, great. But we're not in that situation, and hopefully they'll keep their word. If not, I'm gonna go wash my windows.
But they agreed to pay for it. They agreed to pay for it. There was a lot of it was a mess during the construction.
Sorry, Tom. I value your opinion. We'll get to that towards we get to the end on that. Sorry about that. Smokey, you want to go ahead?
But you're voting on everything before we get to that. This is a joke.
Tom, we're not voting on anything, dude. I mean, nothing is moving forward on that. It's more of I'm giving information on something that's hanging out there. Nothing has moved forward on voting or not voting on that. I'm not sure where you're getting that from. This is your first meeting and you're coming in hot. And I take offense to say that this is a joke. This is your first meeting. Tap your brakes and act like you've been here before.
I will tap my brakes, but you all need to look at the Roberts Rule of Orders, and you guys have followed none of them, period.
Okay. Like I said, this is your first meeting. If you want to talk to me after this, I'll give you my information and we can talk all you want. But for now, please just listen. Smokey, go ahead, please.
Okay. Sorry for that, guys. No, we did have the quote for the front side window cleaning. It did come in through one vendor. We just wanted to get an idea of what it would be, and it was about $3,000. I'll share that quote with everybody so they know we got the actual bid. This is with a shine, 380 exterior panes, all facing Carlisle Street. I did find out that they do power washing, and I also have another company that would be willing to quote the power washing that is a direct vendor, not a GC to where we're going to get any upcharge. These are direct vendors for power washing and window cleaning. So with the board's instruction, I'm more than happy to get bids for the community or whatever you guys are requiring.
That works for me. Thank you.
So I'll just state my opinion for the record, or my stance for the record. Yes, I agree that, and all of us on Carlisle, I have a unit on Carlisle. We probably dealt with the dust and the mess more than anybody. And, you know, they made some promises that some of which they fulfilled and some of which they did not. I just don't know what our recourse is if they choose not to pay for it. And if that's the case, I'm just not in support of taking on that maintenance responsibility. That's the owner's responsibility, because we're not doing that. You know, that's something, if we keep taking on things that aren't our responsibility, that's kind of, we're not funding that. That's not being funded through our assessments. That's not where we are. So we've got a lot of priorities to make, and that's just not one for me. I do think the power washing we've been talking about for 3 to 4 years, and we had told the community we were going to wait till that had finished over there before we did something. We don't necessarily have a budget item for that, but if we can squeeze it in based upon, I mean, we have some discretionary spending funds that are there for, that aren't necessarily budgeted to anything. And if we can utilize those to make that happen, I think that's going to bring a lot of curb appeal and value to the community. I do sympathize though with the window situation, and I appreciate Eric having that relationship with them. But in the end, other than, I mean, I don't know what leverage we have to make them do it in it. That's where I am.
We have no leverage on this. There's no binding, whether it's verbal or not. We have no binding contract with those people. They were doing it as a courtesy. And if it falls out, it falls out. If they get it done, it's an add-on to the people in Carlisle. I want it to get done. I will do everything in my power to make sure it gets done. But at the end of the day, you know, I can, as an association, we can only do so much on that.
I mean, you already said you're going to follow up with them, Eric, 15 minutes ago. So let's just follow up and then let's table it until we hear back.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I agree with that.
All right. Let's see. Let's move on to the next order of business. Looks like we have the SES concrete repair. This is a repair that we requested when we were actually on our punch list walk with them for the pavers. But let me share this real quick. This is the quote they sent over for these two pretty severe trip hazards. I forget, is that what side street is that?
It's on Bowen.
It's on what?
It's the units off of Bowen.
Okay,
It's
on
31
Bowen.
through 35.
So they are, I don't know if the pictures do it justice here, but these have sunk down and they have trip hazards. We're also looking into some screening options, maybe to keep the leaves from dropping down in there. But one of the things we did see is these are some decent trip hazards. We do have a quote from SES, which is under my threshold. I just wanted to make sure the board saw it before we pull the trigger on anything. It is under the $5,000, but if you guys would like a secondary quote, we can. They did good with the pavers. I don't know how you guys feel, but it's definitely on you guys to say yay or nay. So please take a look.
I will always say that to my previous statement earlier, if we can get the minimum 3 bids, if they're out there smoking, I think it's just the best course of practice for the community on that.
Okay, that's fine.
I agree with that. I also question, why are we not bundling the 2 of these with that other screen thing and really forcing that in, right? If we're going to go do this secondary thing anyway, why aren't we just fixing it fully the very first time?
Because
some concerns with the screen, Robbie, is that could end up flooding a unit.
So is there anything else then? I mean, is there something, I mean, if you do look into those, they are like, or at times they've been like what looks to be like a foot or two of like
Yeah, I
leaves.
mean,
Is there some
honest,
better strategy or better solution for us as a community than having to spend all the money to dump the leaves out every 6 months?
I don't, I mean, we can certainly look at, I don't know of any. I mean, to me,
Okay.
it's just a maintenance situation that we just build into the budget.
Yeah, Robbie, to your point, I think I was the one that asked about the screens because it makes sense to do that. But if putting a screen on there, then we have the liability of flooding someone's unit. I don't think that's the best course of
I
action.
would agree with that. I just didn't know that was the thing. I just felt that if we were going to solve the things, we should solve it all at the same time, or at least ask for solutions from these experts to see if they have any other solutions.
And we, Robbie, to your point, we did ask that when they sent this over, we said to separate it until possibly they had a good idea for this, because we're either going to have to increase service from one of our other vendors to maintain it, to speak to Eric's side of we don't want to flood a unit. So that's going on, but the trip hazard still remains. The gutters are going to be there. We're either going to figure out something or we're going to clean them, because that's what needs to happen. And if you've walked over any of those grates, you know they fill up pretty quick when the leaves drop. So it's a concern, but the first step that's going to be outlining, in my opinion, is the trip hazard there, because it's sunk in quite a bit.
Okay, so I think we're in agreement to get everyone on the board in agreement to get a couple more bids on this.
Yeah, that should just be our standard practices.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know why we have to keep
Okay.
going through each one of these things.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
No,
hear you. I'm
no.
just-
And I'll speak to that. Normally, it's a $5,000 bid or above. That we require the 3 bid minimum. With this being at $2,900, it's creeping on it. So I'm not shrugging it or saying, hey, let's not do that. I'm with you guys on that, but just for clarification, it's usually, the threshold is usually right about $5,000 to make sure, if we don't have a trusted vendor that we're already dealing with, that we want some competitive bids.
Okay, thank you, Smokey, for that information.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. What do we have next? We'll bid that out. That was a shine proposal. The other thing we do have in here, no,
We already
this,
talked about it.
we've already talked about everything. I think we're kind of through all the slides at this point.
I would move that we adjourn to Q&A.
I second that.
All in favor?
In
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Yeah. Tom, the floor is yours, sir.
Tom, are you there?
Looks like he's out. Does anyone else have anything?
Maybe that's why you didn't hear any of the motions. I don't know.
Stacy has a question.
Stacy.
Or maybe his mic's off. Hey, Stacy,
Hello.
please take the stage.
Yeah, I'll go. Well, question/comment. I was curious on the board term limits. I thought someone could like take different positions. So like if you rotated through positions, could you in effect like stay on longer? Could you keep rotating? So are the term limits specific to a role or to the board generally?
To the board.
Thing?
It's to the,
Okay.
it says, I can't remember the language, but it's
Never mind. Go ahead, Mark.
I believe it's to the board, Stacy, but that's a good question.
Well, because I was thinking like, there's
And I
some ways
believe
that
it's-
people could stay on longer without totally eliminating term limits. Because I could also, to your point earlier, see challenge with, someone should not stay on the board and there's no way to but we so appreciate you guys being on, so I don't want to force you off. What made me feel, I think anything where people are willing to spend the time, let's allow them to, right? As long as there's not an issue.
And Mark and board, I think when it comes along to the term limits, I believe it does represent the position. Only because if you have a great board member who's very experienced and willing to serve, since it's a voluntary position, I don't think they're going to want to put anything into effect that stops that person from continuing their service. But at the same time, maybe they don't stay the treasurer, maybe they don't stay the president, maybe they get shuffled up. And I do believe I went through something with that recently, and it was a question. I do have to go back through my notes though.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it, Stacy, is if somebody's on the board and just is folded over and never, at least if you don't have term limits, but they have to go up for election every 2 years, they do have to face the community every 2 years for election.
Yeah.
Versus the other way around, you can end up you just roll over. I mean, that's the way it is. It's like at the end of your term, if nobody runs, if there's nobody to take your position, you just roll over for 2 more years.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which happens in practice, but isn't necessarily in compliance with the board docs, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, just the getting rid of term limits basically makes sure that they come up for election every 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that they're eligible to be elected, but they're also eligible for somebody else to take their place. I mean, in the end, if somebody else wants to take their place, I mean, we haven't seen, probably this thing is like you have somebody on the board who has the support of the community and nobody else can get on the board. That's kind of what that's meant to deal with. But there's pluses and minuses both ways. I agree.
Yep. Well, just thank you for what you guys are doing. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I am back, and I have a couple things to say. First of all, I apologize if I offended anybody. That was not my intention. I'm on multiple boards, and most of them are voluntary, and I do appreciate, as Stacy said, what you all do. It's a thankless job. That said, when you are on a board, you have a responsibility to follow the bylaws and represent your constituents, which are homeowners. And it's not an easy thing. So I get where you guys are. So I want to make sure I'm clear that I'm apologizing if I offended you.
It's okay.
We recently bought a property in March on Carlisle. And, everything was completed. There was nothing. We did an inspection, and 6 months into it, we find out that the roof is leaking. One of the questions I asked, and they said the roof was good. Roof is leaking. I have internal damage. There's window leakage. There's broken windows. We were told this and this and that. We were told the windows were going to be clean because the building across the street was being developed, and we understood that. Believe me, we understood it when we bought it. And while I agree with everybody, there was nothing in writing. I'm a guy that my word is my word. And if they said they were going to power wash our windows, then that's good by me. But unfortunately, it's not good because we didn't have it in a contract. So I understand all that. I guess after I've said all that, and I apologize. I honestly thought this was a town hall and not a board meeting. And don't take offense, but Robert's Rule of Order requires a motion, a second, and then a vote of those in present of board members, assuming we have a quorum. So I don't know what the board is made up of. Again, my fault. I should know that. How many people are on the board, and then what determines a quorum. But to say I agree, one person or two person, I want to know all in favor, aye, all against or opposed, nay. And so I apologize. I may be a little too formal for this board, given my background. All that said, is there an update on the roof and a potential assessment? Because, then I found out, of course, that the board was under reserved, and that was why my question about the reserve came in. I'm on a couple homeowners association boards, and reserves are a big topic of conversation, and we spend thousands of dollars getting studies done to determine what the proper reserve levels are. So I get all that. So I apologize. Don't
Tom,
shoot me.
it's all good. I mean, it
All
just
right.
you were just coming in hot when we're kind of a chill
Yeah,
board.
I get it, Eric. I figured that out when I got muted 3 times. So that's why I'm apologizing.
It's okay.
I didn't understand what the audience or what the environment was. But can someone help me understand
Yep.
the roofing issue? Because now I'm told that there may be a potential assessment on the roof that I was told by the prior owner and my realtor that was in good shape and had been inspected, and now it's leaking and I have internal leakage as a result of that. And that there may be some discussion around, an assessment around the roof and any other capital improvements that were not properly reserved for, or I shouldn't say properly, that we don't have sufficient reserves for.
When you say your roof is leaking, there's multiple points where it could be leaking. Where can you give me a frame of reference in your unit the water is damaged?
Yeah, I will. But no one needs to know this, Eric. You're right. We ought to talk off record. But it's in the middle of the unit, and there's a point on the roof that comes to a low point. Sort of. I don't want to say a vortex. It's an anti-vortex. It's down, and it's leaking, and it's leaking, and now I have leakage through a wall, and I had it inspected, and it's definitely a leak from the roof. So it's a collection area on the internal part. If you take Carlisle back, if you take Carlisle east, it's somewhere between the east, my garage, and the front on Carlisle where the leak is occurring.
Okay, so
Tom, look, Derek, let me step in a moment, okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a couple of things going on, Tom. First of all, the roofs are very complex here because there's this portion of the roof. Most of what we consider a roof is the homeowner's responsibility. Okay, so what we're doing right now, and I think the engineer came out and looked at your particular unit.
Yes.
Yes. So the engineer did those. So here's what the association is doing about the roofs. Okay, so we had a drone fly over to see if there was water. They could see if there was water penetrating and staying underneath the roofs. Okay, that didn't show anything. All right. So then we sent out the survey, which I saw you had filled out, and then I think you refilled it out because it started leaking then.
Yep.
And so then we scheduled those that were reporting leaks for the engineer to come out and look at and see what's going on, and then see what's going, or try to see where it's leaking and see where it's leaking inside. So after that, he has recommended that we do some intrusive and destructive testing to try to further figure out what might be going on in various places. There's several possibilities that he's found that could be causing these roofs or the leaks that he was able to observe. So I don't know particularly what he found on your roof. If it was pooling water where it's not properly draining, it could be a slope of the roof issue. But I don't know. So there's going to be further investigation with, we're in the process of trying to come up with an agreement. That's an item that we're going to talk about in executive session on one of our vendors that can, as a contractor, can do some of the work the engineer needs them to do to further investigate what's causing these. Once that happens, we're going to see what recommendations they make on the fixes, and working with our vendor, kind of try to isolate what's the association's responsibility, what's the owner's responsibility. And depending on the total cost of the project, yes, there could be an assessment associated with that. But we just don't know the cost at this point to know that situation.
Mark,
as an owner, since you are responsible for a lot portions of the roof, can certainly have a roofer come out and see what recommendations they make as well in terms of that. And then or wait till we're finished with our investigation. It's going to be we're trying to get it done as quick as we can, but certainly you need to mitigate your situation.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I did, so though the roof is the responsibility of the homeowner?
There are, so if you'll, I mean, and I would, we have a lot of information on our website, and I would,
Yeah,
I would,
yeah.
I would, you should look at it. There's a lot of questions
Okay.
you're asking today that I think might answer that, but the owner's responsible for everything above the structural deck. So insulation, membrane, flashing, all of that.
So, okay, that's great. Thank you. That's news to me, because my understanding that the roof was the responsibility of the association, and the assessment would be tied to the replacement of the roof of the complex. So if I fix my roof, then I wouldn't be responsible for there wouldn't be an assessment
No,
specifically?
so
Yep.
there are parts of the roof, the structural roof decking, and that system that the association is responsible for, parapet caps and structural components. Okay, so there are things that if we're not going to, we would assess if we are not going to assess you for anything that's the owner's responsibility. But if it's a community responsibility that we have to fix, that would be divided by the 63 units.
Right. Got it. Okay. Okay. I got it. That's good. That's good information. I will dig into the CCNRs around what is ours and not. I think I may have been misinformed by our realtor.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
and really,
Not
truly,
misinformed, sort of, it wasn't
Yes.
clear.
yeah, and it's our roofs are a very
Yeah.
Complex.
a complex issue that
Yeah.
have caused, I mean, it's not simple in terms of that. But if you'll, our website is thevinehoa.org,
Okay.
and it has links to a lot of the information you've been requesting.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I
Mhm.
appreciate that. And one last thing, and I'll shut up, I promise. There was a comment about having attorneys review some documents, and somebody asked what the cost was, and somebody answered a couple $100. My attorney won't answer the phone for less than a couple $100. So I'd like to like the name of that attorney so I could use him.
Yeah,
if
I think that
possible.
was. It's gonna be thousands, Tom.
Okay, that's
It's-
better. Yeah,
No,
all right.
yeah, Smokey's under. Yeah, I mean, attorneys
I
are
don't
working
think
at
I'm
$300 to
underbidding
$400 an
that.
hour.
We do enough
so-
business with these
Yeah.
folks to where they lower their cost.
All right. I take my attorney to lunch and he charges me $1,000 to buy lunch for him. So
Wow.
Yeah,
All right.
I appreciate
good.
it. I appreciate
good.
your
Yeah,
knowledge
so-
and your but I appreciate your coming, and anything you can do. Certainly, our emails are on the website.
yep. Thank you all, and thank you for your patience. This was my first one, so
It's fine. It's fine,
hopefully,
Tom. I just we'll have a town hall meeting, or
Yep.
like a not town hall meeting, whatever. Our community meeting in September, when it would be more of an open forum. One of the things we added when this board came together a couple of years ago is we wanted homeowners to be on the call so they could hear what we discussed about and
Yep.
ask questions during the Q&A. I realize this is your first one. I apologize if I got a little hot. Things were getting a little bit out of control there a little bit. So appreciate your questions. I appreciate you being willing to ask the questions, but please know that some of the information you may or may not receive from your previous homeowner and realtor. If you have questions about that, please ask a board member.
You got it.
On that.
thank you. Yep.
Yep. Stacy, go ahead.
Yeah, super fast. Since we're doing the roof, like all that analysis or whatever we're calling it, inspections, I love when we hear guidance on don't forget to cover your faucet, your faucets, and don't forget to do this and you should do this. It would be great if they could give us like what maintenance stuff we should be doing, as a community, but as individual homeowners as well, like the parapet or whatever they're called, caps. We should probably be sealing seams on some regular basis. So and maybe that's posted somewhere, but any of that kind of regular maintenance, ongoing maintenance guidance, I think would be fantastic if they could include that in whatever they tell us.
Yeah, I think
needs to be done.
Mark's
Stacey,
what
I
I'm
think
saying?
Mark's on top of that.
We try to do that. I would tell you that sealing the parapet caps isn't really something we should have to maintain if it's built and done correctly. that's not necessary.
Yeah, fair. Okay, good point.
Okay. Now we may end up doing that as a cheaper way than, doing other things, but that's not really, if it's functioning as it
shouldn't
should, you
have
don't
to.
need to seal it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I'm just
and
thinking
it's a-
there is
I mean, I've
maintenance
learned
stuff
that through
we
this
need to do,
process.
so,
That's the only reason I can say that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's good
And-
to know.
And to be clear,
Unfortunate.
Stacy and Tom and others, we're dealing with stuff that happened, almost 20 years ago that's happened to this place that we're trying to make whole now, which is
Yep.
somewhat of a challenge on that. So this is something that's just, Tom, just for your knowledge, this is stuff that's been they cut a lot of corners when they built this place, and we're as time goes on, we're finding out what those cost corners were, and we're having to now we're having to pay the price on some of that stuff. So just FYI on that, Tom.
All right. I'd motion to recess the regular session and go into executive session.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you for your time tonight, homeowners and residents. Please, if you can, please leave the meeting. We're going to go into executive session. Once again, thank you for joining. If
Session, our regular session at 8:54 p.m. I move that we ratify the decision that was made in executive session to allow the attorneys to proceed with foreclosure on account. I had it. I'll get it. Sorry, I'm going to bring it up. I'll make my motion again as soon as it comes up. Okay. So I move that the board formally ratify the decision to initiate foreclosure proceedings regarding account Vine 20933 that was voted on in executive session.
I second that.
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes unanimously. I move we adjourn the meeting.
A second.
Adjourn 8:55.